Sometimes life feels like a puzzle that's been thrown to the ground. All the pieces are scattered and you're left wondering how to put them back together. Whether it's because of heartbreak, illness, or just the weight of the world, it can seem like an impossible task. But here's the truth. You can rebuild your life one step at a time, and I'm here to walk with you on that journey. Let's start with a story from the Bible about a man named Nehemiah. Nehemiah was heartbroken because the walls of Jerusalem, his beloved city, were in ruins. The people were discouraged and no one believed they could rebuild. But Nehemiah didn't give up. He prayed to God and then he took action, one brick at a time. Nehemiah gathered the people, encouraged them, and led them in rebuilding the walls. It wasn't easy. They faced opposition, ridicule, and setbacks. But Nehemiah kept going because he knew that with God's help, they could restore what was broken. Even when life feels like it's in ruins, you can rebuild. Start with one small step, just like Nehemiah laid one brick at a time. You don't have to fix everything all at once. Focus on one piece at a time and trust that the bigger picture will come together. Let's pause for a moment with a lighthearted story. Imagine a little turtle who dreams of climbing a big hill. But every time he starts, he gets tired and has to stop for a nap. The other animals laugh at him and say, "You'll never make it to the top." But the turtle doesn't let that stop him. He takes it slow, one step at a time, with lots of naps in between. It takes a while, but eventually the turtle reaches the top of the hill. And do you know what he says? Slow and steady really does win the race. Life is not a race. It's okay to move at your own pace, even if it's slower than others. What matters is that you keep going one step at a time. And don't forget to laugh along the way, even if you need to take a few naps. When you're trying to rebuild your life, it's important to celebrate the small victories. Maybe today you got out of bed, took a walk, or did something nice for yourself. These small steps are like pieces of a puzzle coming together, and they're worth celebrating. Let's think of these small victories as flowers in a garden. Each time you achieve something, it's like planting a new flower. At first, you might only see a few blossoms, but with time and care, your garden will grow into something beautiful. Don't overlook the small victories. Each one is a step forward and they all add up. Celebrate them no matter how small they seem. They're proof that you're making progress. Another inspiring story from the Bible is about a woman named Ruth. Ruth lost her husband and had every reason to give up, but she didn't. Instead, she chose to start over in a new place, even though it was scary and uncertain. She worked hard, trusted in God, and eventually found love and a new family. Ruth's story shows us that even when we lose something precious, it's possible to find a new beginning. It might not look like what you imagined, but it can be just as beautiful, if not more so. Life doesn't always go according to plan, and that's okay. Like Ruth, you can find new beginnings even when the path ahead seems uncertain. Trust that there's a future full of hope waiting for you. Let's take another lighthearted detour. Have you ever lost a sock in the laundry? One minute it's there and the next it's gone. You search everywhere, but it's as if the sock has vanished into thin air. This little mystery has puzzled people for ages. One day, a man decided he was going to solve the mystery of the missing socks. He set up a stakeout in his laundry room, complete with snacks and a notepad. Hours passed, and just when he was about to give up, he saw it. The sock had slipped behind the dryer. He laughed so hard, realizing that sometimes the things we lose are hiding right under our noses. Not everything that's lost is gone forever. Sometimes what you're looking for is just out of sight. And even if you don't find what you lost, it's okay to laugh at life's little mysteries. Sarah, the wife of Abraham, longed for a child for many years. But as she grew older, she began to lose hope. One day, when she was 90 years old, God told her she would have a son. Sarah laughed at the thought. After all, she was far too old to have a baby, but just as God promised, she gave birth to Isaac. Sarah's laughter at the seemingly impossible situation turned into a joyful reminder that nothing is too hard for God. Her story shows us that joy can come after years of waiting, even when we've almost given up hope. Even when you think it's too late, or that your dreams are out of reach, remember Sarah. Sometimes life's biggest surprises come when you least expect them, and it's okay to laugh along the way, even at the impossible. Generally, always remember that rebuilding your life is a process. It's okay to start small, to take breaks, and to move at your own pace. Like Nehemiah, Ruth, and even our persistent turtle, you can overcome the obstacles in your path one step at a time. Don't be afraid to celebrate your progress, to laugh at life's quirks, and to trust that there's a brighter future ahead. With every step you take, you're moving closer to rebuilding a life that's filled with hope, joy, and new beginnings. Now that you've taken the first steps to rebuild your life, it's time to embrace the journey ahead. Healing is not a straight path. It's more like a winding road with ups and downs. But every step forward brings you closer to a place of peace and hope. Let's look at the story of Joseph from the Bible. Joseph was sold into slavery by his own brothers and later thrown into prison for something he didn't do. His life was full of setbacks, but Joseph never lost hope. He trusted that God had a plan for him even when things seemed hopeless. Eventually, Joseph's faith and perseverance paid off. He was released from prison and became a powerful leader in Egypt. He was even able to save his family during a famine. What seemed like a series of unfortunate events turned out to be part of a bigger plan. Sometimes life takes us through dark valleys, but those valleys are often leading us to something greater. Like Joseph, you can trust that even when things look bleak, there's a bigger picture at work. Let's add some humor to our journey with the tale of the giggle bug. The giggle bug lived in a forest where everyone was always so serious. The animals hardly ever smiled, let alone laughed. But the giggle bug had a special power. Its laugh was so contagious that anyone who heard it couldn't help but giggle too. One day, the giggle bug decided to spread laughter across the forest. It started with a tiny giggle, then a chuckle, and soon the whole forest was laughing. Even the grumpy old bear couldn't help but join in. The forest, once gloomy and quiet, was now full of joy and laughter. Laughter is one of the best medicines. Even on tough days, finding something to laugh about can lift your spirits and bring healing to your heart. Healing doesn't happen overnight. It's like planting a seed and waiting for it to grow. You can't rush it, but with time, water, and care, that seed will grow into a strong tree. Let's take a moment to remember the story of Job. Job lost everything, his family, his health, his wealth, but he didn't lose his faith. He waited patiently, and eventually, God restored everything Job had lost and more. Job's story reminds us that patience is key to the healing process. Don't rush your healing. Be patient with yourself, and trust that with time, you'll grow stronger and more resilient. The process may be slow, but it's worth it. When you're on the journey of rebuilding your life, it's important to see things from a new perspective. Think of it like putting on a pair of glasses that help you see the world more clearly. Suddenly, the things that once seemed blurry or confusing start to make clearer. One example of seeing through fresh eyes comes from the story of Elisha and his servant. When they were surrounded by an enemy army, the servant was terrified. But Elisha prayed, "Lord, open his eyes." Suddenly, the servant saw that the hills were full of horses and chariots of fire, God's army protecting them. Sometimes all it takes is a new perspective to see the good that's already around you. When life feels overwhelming, try to see things from a new angle. You might discover that there's more help and hope around you than you initially realized. Finally, let's talk about Jonah, the prophet who tried to run away from God's call. Jonah ended up on a vacation inside a giant fish. Can you imagine trying to get some sleep in there? But even in that smelly, cramped place, Jonah found time to reflect. When the fish finally spat him out, Jonah was ready to follow God's plan. Sometimes life takes you on unexpected detours, but even those can have a purpose. And hey, if Jonah could find a way out of a fish's belly, you can definitely find your way through your challenges.
Hey, If you're enjoying this video, and I believe you are, kindly click on the subscribe button to subscribe to see more of our awesome videos like this.
As you continue to rebuild your life, remember that every step, no matter how small, is progress. Like Joseph, Job, and Ruth, you can overcome the toughest challenges and find new hope. Celebrate your small victories, laugh often, and trust in the process. With patience, faith, and a positive perspective, you'll find that the life you're rebuilding can be even more beautiful than before. Keep moving forward one step at a time and embrace the journey of healing and hope.